man in our community who was a homeless man who had some special needs. And he lived in an abandoned house across from where we had our nonprofit for 20 years in inner city Des Moines, Iowa. There is an inner city in Des Moines, Iowa. And he would be someone that most people would just pass by in their car, maybe feel a little pity for. He didn't bring much to the table in many people's eyes. He came in and he was visiting with us. We knew him fairly well. And as he left, we invited him to come to a community dinner that we had once a month. And it was hard to know if he would remember, if he had any way of recognizing what time it was, but we invited him still because he was a part of our community. So 5 o'clock rolled around and we start setting up for our dinner. We're outside and many people from the community are coming to eat with us. And here comes Smiley across the street to sit at a table to have dinner. And what I noticed that night began to sift and shift kind of my ideas and my bias about people living in poverty and what they bring to the table. He was sitting there, he was visiting, and he was laughing, and people were telling stories, and everyone was on the same level. And that night, I left thinking that we had offered more than a meal to Smiley. We had offered community. And when we think about the poor in our communities, the poor globally, we have many biases about who they are, how they live, what they value. And I think many times we're dead wrong. We're just dead wrong about what we think about those living in poverty. And for me personally, and for those that I've worked with for 20 years, as we've opened up our eyes and as we've let go of some of our bias, we've realized that the poor have so much to teach us and that we need to bring them to the table. And so I want you to think about it today as we visit for this very brief time, what might be your biases and how might you be wrong, and what could the poor in this community offer you? How might they heal you? How might they bring something new to your thought process or your organization? We can define poverty many ways. A lot of times I'll ask, well, how do you define poverty? And people will start really quickly with that, the money, the percentage, what the government says someone living in poverty looks like, a house of 3 and a house of 5, or what their bring home salary is. We can define it by people not being able to pay their bills, or we can define it many different ways. But when you ask people in poverty how they define their circumstance, you start to hear these reoccurring themes. And those themes are about not belonging to the bigger picture, to the bigger community, feeling powerless, feeling hopeless, and those things being passed down for generations. And so as we think about what it might look like to be involved with those living in poverty, many times our brain goes to a simple exchange. Like, we have goods, they need goods, let's give them those goods. And that's really generally how we go about helping those living in poverty. And so today I wanted to challenge you to think about what it might look like to, instead of offering goods and services to those in poverty, offering community, and how that looks different, how it feels different, and how it helps move people beyond their current circumstance. There's many places you can give your time. There's many organizations that you can serve with. Maybe your church has things that they do with people living in poverty. And I want to challenge you to think about how are those organizations, those nonprofits, providing mutual relationships with those living in poverty. Because if we could end poverty by giving stuff, we would already have ended poverty, correct? So if poverty is lack of community, lack of being a piece, a person of power, a piece of the table, a piece of the pie, if all those things are lacking when it comes to living in poverty, if that's what those in poverty define their circumstances, then we must be about offering those in poverty mutual relationship. Not we have it, you need it, but hey, I am this person, you are this person, let's kind of do life together. It's a much harder task to walk alongside someone who is maybe different than you, maybe thinks different things, maybe values different things. It's a harder task than just giving them something. But really lovely things happen when we open up our ourselves and we look around our dinner table and people from different races, people from different economic groups are there. We learn, we're more open, we have space in our hearts, our brains open up, and beautiful things happen when we see those living in poverty with something to offer. Because I promise you, my life has been forever changed by working and living among those that are poor. And when I first got to the community that we served in Des Moines 20 years ago, I kind of rode up in my youth Saturn with my master's degree, and I was like, y'all are waiting for me, and I'm here, so just come on out, let me give you all my great advice. And I quickly learned no one cared about my knowledge or my advice, but what I learned was that when that community opened themselves up to me, I was changed, and I was healed, and my life was filled up with love and beautiful relationships. So let me challenge you today, think about your bias. Think about how the poor among you in your community might be such a blessing to you. You might learn something from them. And let me encourage you to be a part of organizations that are looking forward to mutual relationships. Thank you.